All right. Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday of week 3 NFL action. We're going to go over some game picks for week 3, and we'll talk about a couple things that happened in the league the last couple days. So let's jump straight into these game picks, get them out of the way. I had San Francisco picked Thursday night. They pulled out the win. Wasn't a wasn't a very exciting game. San Francisco should have won way more convincingly, but the only reason that contest was even close for as long as it was because San Francisco was just making a lot of careless, tacky mistakes, drop balls, um, bad route running, things like that. Um, but if they were going to have a sloppy game, that was the game to have because it was the Giants without Saquon Barkley on a short week. So I don't have any concern with San Francisco. Like I've always been under the mentality that I would prefer my team to not look invincible and not look like they're playing great, perfect football in September because there's plenty of time for for the wheels to fall off. Like I would rather my teams have some issues to work out early in the season, but still be winning. And as the season progresses, work those things out and be playing your best football in December going into January in the playoffs. So the fact that San Francisco had a rough game, not a concern for me at all. I kind of like that, honestly. Gives them a chance to take a look in the mirror and work on these mistakes early in the season. But anyway, jumping into Sunday's games, we have the Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints. I'm going to pick Green Bay in this one, not just because I'm a Green Bay fan, but I know New Orleans has held opponents to less than 20 points in 10 straight games, second longest streak in like the last 25 years. Patriots did it for 11 games, so the Saints have potential to tie that today. But I think with Aaron Jones most likely going to play, that's going to help the running game and help the offense be a little more explosive. And I believe we're going to see the debut of Christian Watson for the season. So I think Green Bay's passing game will be a lot better. I know New Orleans, this is their last game without Kamara playing. Jamal Williams is hurt, so I think their run defense or their run offense is going to struggle, which is going to play into Green Bay's favor, seeing as their run defense has not been good. So I think that's going to allow their run defense to be better, and I think they'll play decent pass defense against the Saints. I think Green Bay wins a close one. We have Cleveland and Tennessee. I know Nick Chubb is presumably out for the season. I think they did MRIs and said it was an MCL tear, not an ACL tear. So I don't know if the time frame on that is shorter, different, or if it needs a procedure. I'm not sure. Um, but either way, they signed Kareem Hunt and Ford, the backup, had a good game the other night. So I think Cleveland still wins this game. Detroit and Atlanta, I think Detroit looks to bounce back at home after losing to Seattle last week. And I think Atlanta is just a little bit outmatched by Detroit. I think Detroit is just a little bit better team. So I got Detroit winning that. Miami and Denver, no, nothing really to say here. I think Miami is the better team on both sides of the ball right now. I think Denver has better talent on defense, but Miami is by far the better offense and better coached at this point. Not to take a it's not to take slide at Sean Payton, but having taken some time off and still trying to get back into the groove of things, and Mike McDaniel being extremely creative, I think he is the better coach at this point in time. I got Miami. We have Minnesota and the LA Chargers. I mean, both these teams are winless, and I think this is the week that the Chargers pull out their first win. Their offense has been very good through the first two games, scored a lot of points on Miami, didn't score a whole lot last week against Tennessee, but I think the Chargers offense is much better. Justin Herbert's playing very good. Chargers aren't turning the ball over. I think and with Minnesota turning the ball over 7 times in the first two games, I think the Chargers win this one. New York Jets, and New England Patriots. Without Aaron Rodgers playing, I got New England. Bill Belichick has the Jets number. Both teams have good defense. I think the New England offense is a little bit better. Mac Jones is a little bit better quarterback, and I'm just going to have to go with the Patriots on this one. Washington Commanders, Buffalo Bills, both teams really good. And I say that Washington has played really good through two games unexpectedly, but I think Buffalo is a much better team, much better quarterback in Josh Allen. I think we're going to see him continue to protect the ball. Like last week, I got Buffalo winning. Jacksonville, Houston, Trevor Lawrence, much better than what Houston has. And I got Jacksonville bouncing back after a loss to the Chiefs last week. Baltimore and Indy, I've got Baltimore, much better offense. Indy still trying to figure it out. Seattle, Carolina, Seattle, I got Seattle, rookie quarterback in Carolina. I mean, Carolina has not been all that impressive through two games. Seattle had that heartbreaking loss, or I say loss, heartbreaking letdown week one against the Rams. Played much better last week against Detroit, and I think they'll continue that today. Kansas City and Chicago. Chicago is one of the worst teams in the league right now. Kansas City is one of the better teams, so I got Kansas City. Arizona and Dallas. Arizona is also one of the worst teams in the league. Dallas, one of the better teams, one of the best defenses in the league. Even with the loss of Trayvon Diggs, I don't think that'll be an issue today. Dallas wins. The late game, we have the Raiders and the Steelers. I'm going to go with the Raiders here. Steelers offense still hasn't got it together, still struggling. I think the Raiders and Jimmy Garoppolo, I think they protect the ball better, and I think both teams have good defenses, but I don't think the Steelers' defense is going to be able to completely bail them out like they did last week. So I got the Raiders winning. The Monday night doubleheader, first game, I've got Philly playing Tampa Bay. I got Philly winning that. I think they're just the better team. I think their run game and passing game is much better than what Baker Mayfield has, and I think the Eagles pull that out. The second game, it is currently listed that Joe Burrow is questionable with that calf injury, and their offense has not looked good. Joe Burrow has not looked good. If he's limited by that calf in any way whatsoever, I think the Rams pull this out. They've played really good through two games, sitting at 1-1, but I got the Rams winning that game. So let me write that down. Now, a couple things around the league and I guess around the sports world. I mentioned Trayvon Diggs is out for the season, towards ACL in practice Thursday. I believe it was Thursday. And ironically, within hours before that happened, in the video I made talking about the Thursday night game and talking about Dallas, saying that Dallas fans need to pump the brakes. It's only week 3. There's a lot of season left. And within hours, they're I, I don't really consider him their second best defensive player, but one of their best 3 to 5 defensive players out for the season. And without him in the secondary, they're going to be limited on what they can do against wide receivers. I know over the last 2 years, Pro Football Focus did not have him listed as a very good corner. I think 2 years ago, even though he led the league in interceptions, I think they had him ranked at like 76th. And last year, he wasn't even in the top 35. So, really, corner wise, Stephon Gilmore is a much better corner than Diggs, but I know Gilmore is a little bit older. I don't think he's that great of a corner either. I think it's just the fact that you look at all the wide receivers Gilmore played and covered last week, they weren't near as good. They weren't like elite top receivers. I mean, they weren't great. So when you're not covering the best in the game, yeah, your numbers look really good, so you get a higher ranking. So I don't think Gilmore is as good as people think he is. That's not to say he's not good at all. I just don't think he's as great as what people make him out to be. And now he's going to be forced to cover these number ones on all these teams. I mean, you've got some really good receivers that they're going to be playing. I mean, they're going to be playing Miami later in the year. They're going to be playing Buffalo. That's Stephon Diggs there. That's Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle playing Philly twice. That's A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith twice. Washington twice. That's McLaurin. So there are some really good wide receivers. I think they're going to play the Vikings at some point in the season. That's Justin Jefferson. So really, really good receivers he's going to have to cover. So we'll see how good he actually is. But without Diggs, I don't see this really being an issue this week or next week against New England when they play them, because those offenses, Arizona and New England, they're not great offenses, don't have great receivers. I think you'll see it really manifest in 2 weeks when they play the 49ers, especially if Ayuk is back by then. You'll have Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, CMC. I think that offense is really good, and I think that's when you'll see how much the loss of Diggs is going to affect Dallas's defense. Uh, if anything, I think this is just going to force them to really send Micah Parsons at the quarterback a lot more. I know it's not often he drops back in coverage, but he does do that from time to time. He does play run stop from time to time, but with the loss of Diggs in the secondary, I think they're going to force Parsons to rush more to try to get the quarterback to unload the ball faster, so the rest of the secondary does not have to cover as long. Um, and with Diggs, I know he's got a lot of interceptions over the last couple of years. A lot of them in 2021 were batted balls, and he was in the right place at the right time. I know he's a very good player. I'm not going to say he's trash or anything like that. He's a good player, but I don't think he's great in coverage. I don't think he's just this interception machine. I think it's the way the defense plays and the way it's schemed. I think a lot of times he's just been the beneficiary of being at the right place at the right time. And obviously, when he's been in those situations, he has made plays. That's why he is good. But I don't think he's the interception machine like, say, what Richard Sherman was back in the Legion of Boom. Like, if you threw the ball on Richard Sherman's side of the field, there was very good chance it was, getting picked. I mean, Richard Sherman picked off a lot of good quarterbacks, covering a lot of good receivers that year. So I don't think Diggs is that type of corner. But like I said, I do think he's good. I do think we'll see that this does hurt Dallas's defense. I do still think they're a top three team in the NFC. I did not have them higher than that already, but I still think they're probably number three behind Philly and San Fran. But again, we'll see how that plays out in 2 weeks when San Francisco and Dallas play. Um, Not really any major topics around the NFL in the last couple of days, but I'll kind of harp on a topic in college. So we had the Oregon Ducks and the Colorado Buffalo play yesterday. This was Oregon against Coach Prime, which I don't like calling him Coach Prime. I think that's, yes, when Deion Sanders played, he was prime time, but he is not a player anymore. He's not played in 20, 25 years. I don't know when he retired, but he was great, no doubt about it. He's probably the most athletic athlete ever. I think he's probably one of the greatest athletes to ever play. I mean, he played baseball, he played football, he played them simultaneously, he played in the World Series, he played in Super Bowls. He's an outstanding athlete. But and he was prime time when he played. Yes. I think that is in the past. I think now that he is a coach, calling him Coach Prime, I don't really agree with. But Coach Deion Sanders, Coach Sanders. So he came into Buffalo. Buffalo was a terrible, not Buffalo, Colorado, sorry. Colorado was a terrible team last year. So he came in, and when you have a terrible team, and as he said, I mean, though the coaching staff was part of the reason they were terrible, the players were part of the reason they were terrible. So coming in, gutting the coaching staff, redoing it, don't have an issue with. Coming in, bringing in a bunch of transfer players, telling the players that were there, look, some of y'all ain't going to make it. Some of you might, some of you won't. You're going to have to prove you want to be here. You're going to have to work. I love the message he sends. I love it. He says their coaching staff is old school coaches. They coach hard. Love it. I mean, I think a lot in some programs you see you see coaching staffs kind of be a little bit soft. Like it's one of those things where it's like, I know a few years ago, I forget who the Giants coach was, but if players made mistakes, if they got penalized in practice, then he made them run laps after practice. And several people are like, these are grown men. You can't do that. That's not how you get respect. And it's like, no, that's accountability. That's how you hold players accountable. That's how you make them not want to make those mistakes. And I mean, even right now in the NFL, Sean Payton says that if someone commits a holding penalty, or I believe he talked about holding penalties in practice. If somebody commits a holding penalty in practice, they run a lap around the whole facility right then and there. He pulls them out. So Sean Payton's one of the better coaches in recent NFL history. So if he's doing it, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's great. So coaching hard, accountability, telling players like you're going to have to prove that you want to be here. You're going to have to show that you want to be here. You're going to have to show that you're good. I'm cool with all of that. I love the mentality that Deion Sanders has brought in. Now, on the flip side of that, like I get he's not a conventional, traditional coach. I don't think that's what's needed. I don't think you have to carry yourself and act like coaches like Nick Saban. I don't think you have to act like Bill Belichick in the NFL. Like you need to be yourself and you need to have a personality and it needs to and an identity and it needs to be different than what other coaches have. Dion has that. But when you're coming into a program that I think they were 1-11 last year, 1-10, 1-11, something like that. They won one game last year. So when you come into a program, completely change the coaching staff, completely change the roster, I feel like the best thing is to hush the media, quiet the media storm. Like, yes, it's going to be talked about. Yes, you're going to be talked about a lot because of who your coach is, because of who Dion is. But Dion, what I think he should be doing is he should be telling the players, don't worry about the media. We're worried about football. Don't worry about showing off. Don't worry about talking. Like, do your talking on the field. And I feel like, at least for this first year, until he reestablishes that program, there should be no media. Like, there should be no media in the meetings, like practice, and the messages to the team should not be focused around the media, anything like that. And I think it's been a little bit of a circus so far. And you saw that with Oregon's coach with his speech before the game. I mean, he said, we're not playing for clicks, we're playing for wins. He said, what we do here is rooted in substance. And I mean, he had his team fired up. Like his speech pregame, like it had me fired up. I was ready to go out and play. Like it was a great speech, and he got his team went out there and got the job done. And I feel like Oregon felt like they were disrespected because they're the number 10 team in the nation. They got a Heisman candidate, and they were not talked about coming into this game. All the talk was Dion and Colorado, and Oregon said, all right, you don't want to talk about us. We're going to come out and we're going to give you reason to talk about us. We're going to show you that you shouldn't have been talking about that other team and that other coach. And that's exactly what they did. They come out 35-0 at half. His message at halftime was, we're not done. We're going to keep playing. Granted, they only scored one more touchdown in the second half, but they held Colorado to 0 points until late in the fourth quarter. They come out and they said, this is why we're good. This is why you should have been talking about us. And Dion, one of the, like, I get it. He's being himself, and I'm cool with that. But like I said, he needs to quiet the media, hush the media. The whole situation last week with Colorado State's coach saying, when I talk to adults, I take my hat and sunglasses off. And then it shows Dion talking to the players saying that they made it personal with those comments. That don't need to be in the media. Like, you want to tell the team it's personal, that's fine. Keep it behind closed doors. And then the video of him bringing in blenders, giving everybody on the team blenders, the media don't need to see that. And then saying that Colorado State's coach, the comments he made, has boosted his blenders line, and he's made millions of dollars off of it instantly because of those comments. you're sending the message to the team that, hey, I'm about making money, not about winning. Like that's not that shouldn't be going on with the team. Though that's not something the team needs to know. And it needs and it I mean, they may find out, but it don't need to come from you. You need to be coaching these players. You need to have them ready to go out and play. And they almost lost that game. They had to go to overtime on that game. So I feel like the whole week leading up to that was about those comments, and it just distracted from the game. And I think, like I said, until they reestablish their program, until they go out this year and win 7, 8 games, have a winning record, and then next year, if you want to get the media more involved and have a little bit more of a circus show with the media, that's understandable because you've reestablished that team. But until you've done that, it's tacky. It makes it seem like you're more about the attention and the media than you are about the game. And another thing is, like, after their couple wins, you've seen his, like, I know his kids play on the team. He's got 2 kids on the team. And then they're all in the huddle and they're showing off their expensive watches and their jewelry and all this. Like, you you're the son of a extremely wealthy former NFL player, former MLB player. Like, your reputation is based off of him. Like, you didn't go out and earn that watch. He bought you that watch. He bought you that jewelry, and you're sitting there showing off. Like, you're showing off the fact that you have a rich, famous daddy. Like, I feel like that's tacky. It's useless. It's not needed, and it goes more to show that they are more about the attention than they are about winning. I mean, you're a college football player. What have you done in your life? You've made it through the easiest portion of your life, which is getting up every day and going to school. And then you graduated high school. Now you're in college and you're having to work and play to be on a college team, but you haven't done anything yet. So showing off like that, I think it's dumb. I think Colorado needs to, like I said, shut out the media, quiet the storm. Like, yes, the media is going to be involved. The media is going to press for camera time and questioning time and interview time. Give them what you're required. Say what you need to say and leave it at that. Don't don't elaborate. Don't give them a show. Get the team reestablished and then start giving the media a show. But that's all I'm gonna say on that. Kind of harped on that for a minute, but um, we are 2 hours away from noon kickoff games in the NFL. Hope your team wins today, unless you are a Saints fan, in which I hope they don't. But we will hop on here tomorrow, go over the Monday night games, maybe a little more in depth, go over Sunday games, and I'll catch y'all then.